Okay, so now that we've got that figured out, it's time to wire the cam sensor side of it. And so if this ends up being on a different part of the video or a different video, what the problem ended up being was actually the factory ECU connector to the plug and play adapter was kind of loose. So we were able to rectify that, and that was good. So now we're gonna, since we found this connector, we're gonna go ahead and wire up our cam sensor. And from there, we're gonna scope it again, and hopefully that fixes our problem. Or we can scope this side out and then we'll have our cam sensor wiring. So according to PRP's diagram, looking into the sensor is what we're doing. This black white wire is power, yellow wire is ground, and the black wire is sensor signal. So we're gonna verify that really quick here. Yep, so power, which is cool because black white is Nissan's 12 volt power anyways. Black is signal, and then yellow is ground. So what we're gonna do is we're just kind of stick this into here utilizing the factory pins. So signal here, this one is power, this one is ground. We're just going to be real careful about this. Plug that guy in here. And so the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, is that if you don't have primary trigger on the scope, it's not going to read the cam sensor. So now we got the cam sensor. And as you can see, that's still loose because we do have to go back and sync timing. And now, if we're lucky, I'm gonna key this thing on. And I don't know if you guys can see it from where you're at, but on the last scope test, we were able to get all of our scope stuff in. So hopefully, if we get lucky here, okay, so we've got, on the secondary trigger, we've got that, but it doesn't look right to me. So here, this is the gap here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so here is the scope data that we have here with the cam angle sensor wired up. And so I counted it and it matches. So every fifth tooth that it counts on the crank from the missing tooth, that is. So you got the missing tooth, then 5, and then it reads it. And then this is half a rotation. So there's going to be half a rotation where you don't see the crank, or the cam rather. And then this is back to the full rotation, and then you count 5 and 5. So that seems to be correct. So now we're gonna hook up a timing light to it. What we've got to do is actually get this battery charged up because it's cranking really weak. But we're gonna pull off the spark plug valley, and we're gonna pull off the #1 coil and hook up our timing light to it, and then we should be able to sync timing at that point. So what we'll do is we'll pull out all the spark plugs, coil #1. We'll reinstall coil #1 rather, and then we'll crank it with our timing light on it, and then we should be able to kind of hit everything in point. But right now, that's like low on the totem pole. What we need to do now is actually clean up our wiring to get it all situated. So on Nissan cars, this is usually like a bleeder hole, but there's a really long bolt in here and I don't know why. So I unscrewed it, started to pull it out, and then the bolt got stuck onto the head itself. So I just left it alone and put it back in. And so I went ahead and just vacuum bled it. So obviously you guys will see that on the vacuum bleeding video there. And so unfortunately, I didn't document anything else that we did on the Skyline, but we got the valve cover baffles in, so we got that all completed. We added the fuel pressure sensor here. We've got to make a new PTFE line. This line used to go underneath, but with adding this little sensor here, it's pushed it out, and we had to run it up top temporarily. Originally, we were going to run it here right off the reg, but pushing this out would make it into contact, this fitting into contact with all this. So the only other position that we could put it in was here. Obviously we could have put it on the other side of the rail, but it's too close to the firewall. Now if it were me, I would have just deleted the gauge and put the sensor in place, but the customer wanted it like so. So the customer's always right, so we did it that way. The PRP wiring is all done. So I've got it all zip tied up here, and then I just put some sheathing on it to run over here to the old MAF wiring. So all that is done. We wrapped up the boost control install as well. So the boost controller, we had to move some ports around because remember this was set up for internal gate. One thing I do want to mention to everybody is that the ECU Masters MAC valves aren't set up like standard MAC valves. You do have to change them up. So that's why this arrangement probably looks weird, but that's all done. Everything's all zip tied. And then obviously it's all down here to the gate. So the only thing that we've got to do now is change the oil on this, the diff oil as well. And then hopefully we can sync the timing tomorrow and get that all set up and actually getting it running on the trigger setup, which is why the coal valley is still off. And then more stuff taken apart. We got all the spark plugs out just because we got to change them, and we ended up, one of the coils actually broke apart. So I was actually trying to take out this one coil to sync timing, but that didn't work out. And so the thing that's really strange about this one is that, here it is, this piece actually sits right up here, and you can see that it's if I can get it to focus, you can see that it's been kind of burning through. So that's really strange on that one. I'm not really sure why. Electricity always looks for the fastest, the point of least resistance, and that happened to be it. So I ended up pulling all the coils out, and since we were changing spark plugs anyways, I came across number 6, and look at that. I'm not sure why that happened, but it definitely did. I've seen this over the years just randomly, and I don't know what the cause is. I doubt that it's like from being over torqued or anything. I just really don't know. Again, electricity looks for the easiest path, and I wonder if there was just like a crack on the porcelain and it started arcing through. Whatever, we got some spark plugs on the way, we got the new coil on the way, so we're kind of at a stop right now. So the only things that I've got to do left on this is change the diff fluid and change the actual engine oil and then sync timing, and then we're ready to rock. Once we can get that all done and situated, then either A, it'll go on the dyno, or B, I'll start wiring up the power tune display, which we're still 3D printing. The cluster piece that we made, the holes were just a hair off, so we've got to adjust that and print. So that's going to be hopefully tonight or tomorrow, and that will be done, and then I can get started on that.